Hey friends, this is Michael Boehm with Youth Apologetics Training. Today we're going to keep going on this series about the ancient astronauts, but more specifically we're talking about some of the strange theories that some Christians hold that angels procreated with women in the Old Testament to produce the giants. One thing is for sure, regardless of the angel side of the theory, the Old Testament is filled with these giants. And so whatever the case, that is so bizarre. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so in fact, since we're kind of talking about interesting stuff here, and we're just imagining what this could have been like if this really actually happened, I want to read something out of the book of Enoch. Check this out. This is Enoch chapter 8. And again, by the way, this is not inspired. And in fact, I'm not even sure if I would call it historically reliable. Okay? Just, again, my legal disclaimers here. Nonetheless, check this out. This is what Ezekiel chapter 8 says, and this is very interesting, how Enoch portrays these interactions between the watchers, these fallen angels, and men. It says, "Moreover, Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, the fabrication of mirrors," check this out, "the workmanship of bracelets and ornaments, the use of paint, the beautifying of the eyebrows." So they're talking about makeup here. "The use of stones of every valuable and select kind, and of all sorts of dyes, so that the world became altered." Verse 2, "Impiety increased, fornication multiplied, and they transgressed and corrupted all their ways. Amazarach taught all the sorcerers and dividers of roots." And when they're talking about dividers of roots, they're talking about using roots in sorcery, in pharmakia, as in pharmaceuticals, and basically using drugs to reach different states of mind, oftentimes for magical purposes, or to open your mind up to make contact with these beings. Yikes. Okay, stepping out of Enoch and into reality here, there are people, this may come as a shock, but there are people all over the world that use drugs to open up their mind to communicate with spiritual beings. I kid you not. This goes on all over the world, and there's several drugs that are known for people taking them and having their mind open in such a way where they have communications with spiritual beings. As messed up as that is, and God hates that, and that was going on in the Old Testament, and it was going on in the New Testament, and it's still going on today. But yeah, that's what Enoch was talking about here in verse 4. And he goes on, "Barkayal," I don't even know if I'm saying that right, "taught the observers of the stars." Okay, so now we're looking at astrology. "Akibiel taught signs. Tamil taught astronomy. Azradel taught the motion of the moon. And men being destroyed cried out, and their voice reached to heaven." Wow, that's just weird. That's fascinating, and I just couldn't help but read that to you, just to kind of give you a feel for the way Enoch portrays the situation. Again, like I was saying, there's a lot of old writings that seem to have this same theme, where these God-men type beings, these fallen angels, are interacting with mankind, producing giants, and the corruption, the sinful corruption that they spread throughout the cultures. So, yeah, thought I'd mention that to you. Now, to be fair, I want to mention something else. In Matthew chapter 22, verse 30, it says this, and this is an argument that many other Christians offer as a counter argument to Christians that believe fallen angels did this in the past and possibly are doing it nowadays. It says, for in the resurrection, they neither marry, it's talking about people, nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. And so they offer, it says here that just like the angels, when we go to heaven, we neither marry or are given in marriage. So, I wouldn't call that an airtight argument, only because that doesn't say anything about procreation. It just talks about marriage. So, okay, I just want to throw that in there. Let's be fair. And just looking at a few scriptures here that contain some of these giants, right? Numbers, chapter 13, verse 33, and there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak. I mentioned earlier that they go by the name Anak, Anunnaki, Anakims, Zumims, Zuzims, Amims, and Raphaims. Yikes. All kinds of weird names. But anyway, going on with Numbers 13, verse 33, and there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. By the way, guys, these giants were before the flood, but also after the flood. These Christian groups, most of them will contend this is because, again, it was the fallen angels. So God cleaned out the bloodline of the planet, and then after the flood, these fallen angels came back and messed everything up again and started spreading their genetic bloodline once again and causing some of these giants. Now, I did read, I have found some people contend online that these giants, it's just nothing more than genetic material. You know, we all have it in our DNA, or at least we used to. And then, one particular website, the woman contends that she was claiming that Noah, logically, must have been a giant as well, along with his kids. That's interesting. I don't know. I kind of doubt it, but maybe. Something's going on there. And, oh gosh, I am jumping all over the place here. Let's be fair. Going back to Genesis chapter 6, verse 1, and the whole sons of God, Benai Elohim, let's be fair, there's other theories out there. There is the Sethite view. It's the whole idea that the godly line of Seth took them wives of evil daughters of men. Okay, and that was what produced these mighty men, these men of renown, these giants. Okay, there's one theory. They do have some reasons behind that. There's also the royalty view, which is another idea that there was a bunch of polygamous kings, nobles, and tyrants who viewed themselves as gods, and they were lusting after these women. They took a bunch of women, forcing them into their harems, and, well, they produced men who were kind of giants in the eyes of the world. They were men of renown. They were mighty men. In fact, that line there that says mighty men, that's used of Nimrod, the guy that built the Tower of Babel. So that's kind of their reasoning. Basically, these weren't really giants. They were just royalty. You know, they were giants to typical men as far as their office, the stature of their office, their royalty, their status in society. So, I don't know. I suppose, I guess the best thing that argument's got going for it is the fact that Nimrod was called a mighty man. Something tells me that I bet you there's some. I don't think I've seen it yet, but I would imagine there's probably some on the more fallen angel-driven side of Christianity that believe that Nimrod might have been one of the giants, one of the Nephilim men. I don't know. And I just said a word there that I haven't mentioned earlier, Nephilim. The NIV and I think some of the other newer versions, rather than referring to these guys as giants, as the King James refers to them as, they call them the Nephilim, which, by the way, some say it's referring to the Hebrew word Nephal, which the King James translators translated as giants, and others translate as fallen ones. I know that's interesting. So now we have two different interpretations here. Now, giants is one interpretation, and it fits. It fits very well, because as you go forward, you're going to find that these guys that are part of this Nephilim family line, if you will, they seem to be, they're really tall. They're really, really tall guys. Like Goliath and Og of Bashan and Goliath's brothers and on, the Anakim. And anyway, so they were very tall guys, all right? But some of these newer versions, they translate Nephilim because they think that actually refers to fallen ones. The connection isn't there perfectly, but yes, it is a stretch. But anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there. For example, when you look at Numbers 13:33 that I just got done reading, it says, talking about the Anak, and there we saw the giants, that word again, Nephil, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, Nephil, and we in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Okay, so you see where that whole they were really big concept comes from. That would just be one example. Deuteronomy 2, verse 10, the Amims dwelt therein in times past, a people great and many and tall as the Anakims, which also were accounted giants, Nephil, as the Anakims, but the Moabites called them Amims. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 20, that also were accounted a land of giants. Giants dwelt therein in old time, and the Ammonites call them Zamzumims. A people great and many and tall as the Anakims, but the Lord destroyed them before them, and they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 11, for only Og, the king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. Is it not in Raboth of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. And this land, which we possessed at that time from Aror, which is by the river Arnon, and half Mount Gilead, and the cities thereof gave I unto the Reubenites, and to the Gadites, and the rest of Gilead, and all Bashan, being the kingdom of Og, gave I unto the half tribe of Manasseh, all the region of Argob, with all Bashan, which was called the land of giants. All right, so this guy, his bed was 9 cubits long. Now that puts his bed somewhere around 14 feet long. So this guy was like 12, 13 feet tall. All right, either that's a copyist error, and I absolutely 100% do not believe that. I do not believe that the Bible has copyist errors. I don't buy that for a second. Or that was one big dude. Okay, interesting stuff. Joshua 12:4, and the coast of Og, king of Bashan, which was of the remnant of the giants that dwelt at Ashtaroth and at Edrei. All right, so guys, the conclusion of this particular matter is whether you buy into the fallen angel theory and whether you buy into anything ancient astronaut related at all whatsoever, fallen angels mating with the daughters of men, you can scoot all that to the side. These were some big guys. According to the Bible, there were some really tall people living in the past. That is fascinating to me. So anyway, let's stop right there. Come out to the website, youthapologeticstraining.com, and there you can leave comments and questions. I really do want to talk to you guys. Also, you can catch me on Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. And with that, I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.